Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa Dunn. I lead marketing at Suzy. For those of you who don't know who we are, we're an end-to-end consumer insights platform that combines quant, qual, and we own our own audience and work with a lot of the enterprise brands here at Brand Innovators. So I'm really excited for this panel. Before I do get started, we just wanted to sort of send our well wishes. The LA area is experiencing a lot of tragedy right now just with the weather, and everyone here is a part of that and knows people. So there's just a lot happening in the world, and we'd like to put that in perspective. So with that said, we're going to get started. I just love each of you to sort of introduce yourselves, talk about what you're doing in your role at your respective companies. Angela, why don't we start with you?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Angela Clark. I'm the VP of Digital for Patagonia. And so I run the commerce side of the business as well as demand generation, digital marketing. I also run an arm called Patagonia Action Works, which is our non-for-profit URL as well as digital analytics. So I've been there about 3 years, and yeah, so we'll talk more about Patagonia. If you don't know Patagonia, it's a purpose-driven brand in the outdoor space that's really integrated with outdoor communities and activism.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to day 3, right? Thank you for having all of us. I'm Stephanie Latham. I lead global brand partnerships and advertising at Roblox. What that really means is I have the really fun job of helping brands connect to Gen Z through our creator economy, immersive experiences, and different creators. And I won't make you do a show of hands, though I used to teach kindergarten and I love audience participation. But I have a feeling many of you have not been on Roblox, or your view of Roblox is really through kids. So just to kind of ground everyone in the 2 top myths, Roblox is not one game. It's kind of like YouTube for immersive experiences. And there's way more than gaming. There's shopping, there's learning. There's so many things. And the other, I think, myth to bust before we get into the conversation is our fastest growing demographic is 18 plus, and over half of our audience is Gen Z. So we are fully, yes, still have kids and love kids and work with all that, but all of our brand and advertising solutions are for that other half of our audience that's growing.
Wow. Well, first of all, I love these brands. I'm so grateful to be part of this. My name is Patrick O'Keefe. I am the Chief Integrated Marketing Officer for E.L.F. Beauty. Show of hands, who knows E.L.F? Woo! In the house. I'm surprised to see the men. We do have skincare. So shameless plug for skin. But no, I've been with E.L.F. for now 5 years, 14 years at L'Oreal, 7 years at Shiseido. So I'm a beauty junkie, been around the block. I love what I do at E.L.F. We are bold disruptors with a kind heart. We disrupt norms, we shape culture, and we connect communities. That's really the framework in which we work. We are one of the fastest growing brands, mass brands in the United States, and we are definitely going global. Our CMO right now is in China and India, so we have got some great opportunity to continue to grow our brand. I started when we were at 250 million in net sales. We are now 1.1 billion. Which is incredible in 5 years. And yeah, but now the shit really gets real. Right? To get to 2 billion, that's going to be it's going to be a hard road. But I'm just really excited to be here. Please ask questions if you so desire, and let's get this thing going.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll do questions at the end. So I really want to start with sort of what it means to sort of be at the intersection of brand and culture. I think, Angela, I would love to start with you. Obviously, Patagonia is known just for sustainability and activism. And how do you sort of balance, what you are doing from a brand standpoint with obviously a very established brand? And how do you think about culture and making sure those things sort of align?
Yeah, so Patagonia just celebrated its 50th anniversary about a year ago. And the connection between brand and culture started probably about the same time when the company started, because it started from the founders, which were climbers. And so they had a passion about that business, about that community, that action. And they realized that for the people who are outdoors the most, they should be the ones to advocate to keep and protect our planet. So our company mission is to save the home planet. It's not to sell clothes, it's not to make sustainable wear, it is literally that. So it really drives a lot of actions that we do, and that's one of the reasons I joined the brand, because I wanted a different challenge, and it does get challenging. There are a lot of conversations about what might make the most sense to drive sales or growth, but if it's not also holding up the standards of protecting the environment, then we decide not to do it. And so we've made really tough decisions that have actually cost us millions of dollars, but we are always in for the long game. So I think that piece of it is a part that's really rewarding to me, is knowing that the things and decisions we make aren't about this year's profitability. It's about what's going to be happening 3 to 5 years from now, and how can we impact the world in the next 50 years so that we're all breathing clean air, clean water, and want to be outdoors and protect those environments.
That's incredible. Pat, I would love you to just talk about sort of like E.L.F. is constantly just going viral, and I feel like it is, you guys are at the pulse of culture. Sort of how do you guys keep, up with trends, and how do you really sort of think about this intersection between brand and culture, and sort of really have the brand drive in that way?
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's getting harder and harder, and I'm exhausted. 5 years has been exhausting, but it's been incredible.
But his skincare routine
Oh,
is
look at that.
great.
The glow is impressive.
You are so dead. Anyway, so we're such a community-centric brand. Recently, one of the things that we just recently did is we merged consumer affairs, which is the people that are answering the tough questions with our community, and community management, which now falls under my world. And we really listen, we learn, and we lean in. And those are really the things that really keep this brand alive. We have tons of examples when our community tells us that they want a product, we will figure out how to do it, and we will put it in market at speed. We call it E.L.F. speed. The other layer of this is we are very accessible, and they have access to our key leaders, our executive committee, our executive team, our CEO, our CMO, our CFO. They do Twitch lives, they do TikTok lives, and they get deep with the community. And we get, Corey and our CFO got on a Twitch live stream. They had over 15,000 people that showed up. It was fascinating to understand what they wanted to learn. They wanted to understand how these powerful women got into their seats of power. And we'll talk a little bit later about why that is so important for E.L.F. and what we do, and how do we create the narrative to really inspire young girls to become superwomen and create their superpowers, to give them platforms like Roblox and Twitch. And we really are proud of the fact that the community really does drive everything we do.
That's awesome. And Stephanie, will you talk about just like culture within the immersive experience of Roblox, and really what that is doing for audiences, and how you guys are driving culture that way?
Sure. I mean, especially for this audience as brands, I think we think about it really in two ways, right? A lot of culture happens on Roblox, and a lot of our creators and brands that are working with them drive culture. I think one of the most important things is actually one of the core tenets of what Pat said, which is really like leaning in and understanding your community. And oftentimes what we see is Gen Z doesn't behave like you or I or anyone on the panel might. And so a lot of things aren't intuitive. And so spending that time to really learn from the audience is so critical to success, and then helping your brand meet them there authentically to then drive culture or be a part of that cultural moment. So I think we're going to share a bunch of E.L.F. examples later, but we've seen, we have over 400 brands active on the platform, and the ones that are really performing well are the ones that are willing to move at E.L.F. speed or pivot or kind of follow the behavior, right? I mean, this is a funny example, but like funerals happen on Roblox now, right? Like that is mind blowing to me, but just thinking about and really like taking that time to understand this generation that blends digital and physical so seamlessly is really important to think about how that fits into your storytelling.
So interesting. And I guess I wanted to talk to you guys about, just culture. It's so diverse and it's ever changing. And now with audiences, there's really these subcultures that have almost taken over from sort of like a mass culture. So how do you guys, just as brands, really make sure that you are sort of meeting your consumers within their passion points and the things that matter to them, but also sort of having a universal brand that resonates sort of at a broader audience? Pat, I'll start with you on this one.
Okay, all right. So what you didn't see in there is we had a big activation with Roblox, which I'll talk about in a second. But why were we there? There are 350,000 people that have been showing up to this event for 109 years, and 48% of them are women and young girls, and no one was talking to them. That booth that you just saw there, we were in between Goodyear and Waste Management, and I can tell you right now, we changed the conversation, which is what we love to do. Our lines were super strong in the sense that fathers were bringing their daughters and sons into the space. We were creating a space for young girls to understand that you too can be a motocross or into motorsports. And Catherine Legg is a remarkable human being. Another shameless plug, she just did a podcast on iHeart, which is another partnership we did in the world of sports. But the biggest part of the activation was what we did with Twitch, Roblox, and Snapchat. This team over here went into action. We created what is it called? We created an opportunity for young girls to go in and get into a car specifically within the Roblox experience. We did a Snapchat filter, and then we also celebrated. We were the first brand to do a drone show in Indiana, which was pretty powerful to celebrate again Catherine Legg. And that is where we are looking at the subcultures. I'll talk about another example in a second, but I'd love to hear from you on how you felt that experience and what that meant for you guys at Roblox.
So I love that experience on so many levels, and also as the parent of a daughter. But I think what is so important, the takeaway of that, is how creatively you use all the canvases, right? So it's not a Roblox strategy and an indie strategy. It's actually how do you activate the flywheel of everything together, right? We have a billion views of Roblox content on other social platforms every day, right? And so as marketers and storytellers, with Pat's example is so great, like thinking about how all those things work together, because this audience just seamlessly goes throughout. And so I think the things that we love so much about that were quick, found a cultural moment, moved really quickly to activate, and then leverage all the channels so that you are telling this really holistic story to your audience, again, meeting them where they were at all these different touch points.
Yeah, and I think that the other layer of this is that there was something for everybody. So whether it was a young boy or a young girl, we created a safe space for everyone to come and hang out. And we also made it really cool for a lot of young girls to see what they could potentially be and inspire them to be the next great leaders.
Authenticity, right? Like at the core.
Yeah, and you guys are showing up in places I think that are unexpected, but ultimately, I mean, I think there's a real connection point and clearly a passion for women and girls that hadn't been capitalized on and hadn't been connected with, and it feels like, I mean, such a meaningful way to meet them where they are. Yeah. So I love that. Angela, what about you?
First, I have to fangirl that whole situation because I am an avid car person. I do autocross. I've been to Formula One, and I remember seeing that activation and being like, I still have aspirations to drive race cars. I have 50 plus. So seeing that was just like amazing. And I know you've been saying you're fangirling. I mean, been watching Patagonia. I've been fangirling E.L.F. ever since I left, and just absolutely amazing approaches. So for Patagonia, we're kind of on the other end of the spectrum. We're a very analog organization in a lot of ways, but the way that we really connect is actually a lot of our product. Every product that we design is built with the intention of what problem are we solving. And so we have a group of ambassadors that we actually utilize that are hardcore athletes. We don't pay them. We use them to help us innovate the product. They take that product, we design something, we give them a prototype. They go up in a mountain for a month and come back and tell us what was great about it and what wasn't, and then we redesign it and then finalize that product. So, and we actually don't even really capitalize on that, and that's the thing I'm trying to get leadership to understand. Like, this is a huge opportunity for us to share that with the customer, but right now it is just really that closely connected to innovate the product. And then we're in a category like fly fishing, and a lot of people are like, who fly fishes, right? Why is Patagonia involved in fly fishing? And the reason why that's so important to our brand is fly fishers are usually the first people to understand a change in the ecosystem of the water streams, because they're in the water, they're catching fish, and they know that something's changing. And they're also closely connected with indigenous communities who are also really close to the water and the ecosystems, and they're usually the first ones to raise their hands and saying something's not right here. And so Patagonia is usually involved in those communities well before you hear about it on the news. And we had a good example in Alaska where there's actually a community where their whole land is falling into the ocean. And we had been part of that community for 5 years before there was actually financial government aid to help relocate the entire community. So it's really authentic. It's not forced. It's not where do we find the opportunity. It's we're there to begin with, and we're immersed in the communities. And then we look for those opportunities to how do we elevate that and how do we bring that to life to help customers live the Patagonia mission.
I love that on so many levels. I feel like this whole idea of like co-creation, right? And the invitation for your community to join you, to help you on the cause, and to bring their expertise or their voice
Yep.
is so important. Obviously, it's clear in both of your activations, but that's what we see all the time on Roblox too, right? That the brands that are succeeding are inviting the community to help and tell them, like,
Yeah.
completely different category, Duolingo, right? They activated on Roblox and then they invited the community to help them build out the next challenges and the next languages and like give them a voice. And so I think anytime you can do that and bring them along, you have a lot greater success of that impact you can make.
I love that. Pat, will you talk a little bit just about, from a community perspective as well, how you guys are sort of curating communities or sort of finding connection points with them? I think, and Angela, if you have other things, like I feel like that was a fascinating example,
Yeah, I love that.
or on the fly fishing piece. But Pat, maybe we can start with you. And
Sure. Another example, and this is something recent. This past weekend, I was in Columbia, Missouri. Anyone from Columbia, Missouri? Okay. All right. Great. It's 2 hours from St. Louis. So, but what was happening in Columbia, Missouri it was the Wonder Woman Wrestling Conference. So this is where young girls. We were at a high school where there were just these incredible women, young girls, going and wrestling. So it was fantastic to be a part of something so unique and different. And again, finding what we're calling beauty deserts, where people are just not talking to a community. There were over 3,000 family members showing up to support their daughters. It was incredible. There were over 800 young girls that wrestled in this national tournament. And we were there. We showed up loud and proud. And it was just the reactions, again, seeing the mothers and the fathers of a brand supporting their daughter was super powerful. So again, building the trust with a community of people that no one's talking to them. So why not show up? Find a way in, and I think these beauty deserts that exist everywhere is really where we seek out to find a new way to connect with that community. Yes, we sell product, but at the end of the day, it was a place that they could come and feel good. There's one example where they can be badasses on the mat, when they go in there, and then they got to go get their makeup done, and they loved it, and they talked about it, and they thought it was just really cool that E.L.F. showed up to support them in a way that was meaningful.
And they can be all of those things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Can
so
I just
special.
say what I love about that is something I was thinking about as we were preparing for this panel is I think that community connection or that to be able to think about a brand and you leverage it for good, more than just the product, more than just sales, more than just the conversion. And I think that's the part that's really exciting about the future. And you're a one extreme of it. It was like finding those niches. And I had a similar experience at eBay where we're like going to these super niche conferences and giving them $5,000 because we were for eBay and they're excited and we're the only major brand there and it was amazing to see. But I think that's the unlock for a lot of us is the gift that we have as a brand is that we can actually create good and create this amazing ecosystem of energy just by having connections with that community. So that's the privilege I think of my role right now at Patagonia.
Totally. And another build, I don't know how many of you have seen the campaign we did around Change the Board Game and So Many Dicks. You guys know that story? Okay, a few of you. The insight is that there are more Richards and Dicks on boards of directors than there actually are underserved women around the world. And we created a campaign called So Many Dicks and Not Enough of Everybody Else. But why is that important? It's important because at E.L.F. we really believe that there's an opportunity for us. We know that when young girls stay in sports and they become stronger leaders, and a lot of women, specifically women board members, they are part of a culture when they're in their early ages. So, our board of directors is comprised of 78% women and 44% diverse. and we're super proud of that. We're the only brand right now out of 4,100 publicly traded companies. So everything we want to do is going to ladder up to make really strong, super powerful women.
That's amazing. And I feel like, especially in this day and age, just showcasing women in leadership and, I think it's trickling down obviously to your consumer as far as really seeing what kind of brand you guys are. And I think that, you guys have had such a surge, obviously, in success, but you're doing it by, I think, showing it at the top and really connecting with people on the ground in a way that's meaningful. That's very impressive. So, let's talk a little bit about just like purpose and culture. So, obviously, there's cultural trends that are happening and being relevant and trying to sort of be in the moment what's happening. How do you balance, really capitalizing on those moments, but also really being true to, a 50-year-old brand that exists and what the brand stands for? So, how do you sort of balance things in the immediate and in news and trying to like keeping your finger on the pulse, but also really standing for, what the brand exists as and making sure those align. Angela, why don't we start with you?
So I have two examples. One, our Black Friday campaign is something that's pretty infamous at this stage, and so typically we don't go on sale on Black Friday. In fact, we actually close our stores that day, and we tell people to get outside and do something else besides fight each other for stuff at a discount that'll end up in a landfill a year later. And so this year, usually we would just push the brand campaign from a digital perspective, but all our other campaigns are sort of out there in the ecosystem. The CEO challenged us to quiet everything and spend literally every dollar on our brand message for Black Friday, which was basically like, we're here, we fight for positive causes, that's what we're about. Hopefully you'll be part of our community. It was not a sales pitch, and it was a risk. Black Friday is still a big revenue day for us, even though we're not on sale, and to cut through the noise. And it actually really worked for us. We had the biggest Black Friday we've ever had, and I learned a lot from that, of like taking that risk of shutting down other things and just saying this is what's really important to us. And that's all you saw from the brand message for that whole weekend, and it really worked. So that was pretty amazing.
That's incredible. Yeah. I remember seeing it and just feeling like, wow, this is really, zigging while others are zagging and doing exactly the opposite of what every brand sort of does, and so impactful. Stephanie, what about you?
I think I love the theme of like the tech for good, or kind of like leaning into how technology can be helpful. And so some of the things I've loved seeing, I'm not going to steal your show, so you can talk about what you're doing, but I love seeing, like, we've had many brands activate and not think about coming to Roblox to like sell products or but actually sell the ethos or bring the ethos of their brand, right? So you look at someone like Aloe Yoga, and they've brought a sanctuary. So that's been very successful for several years now on Roblox, where you can come and you can actually do live yoga classes, and you can, stress your avatar and all those things, but it's like a very peaceful moment of calm in the chaos. Or, Google recently launched Be Internet Awesome, and it's actually gamifying safety on the internet. So it's, again, like meeting the customers where they are in a way that's very authentic to the brands, and then teaching them what to do. Of course, one of my most favorites on this is what we've done with E.L.F, but I'll let you talk a little bit about that. I think, Pat has shared so many stories of what's amazing, and like how E.L.F kind of taps into their core ethos everywhere. But for Roblox, that was about, wait a minute, how do we not only just bring our brand ethos to Roblox, but also like teach in the process, right? And everything is about empowerment. So E.L.F came to Roblox and said, wait, we want to teach everyone here how to be entrepreneurs, and how to, like, what are the causes they care about, and how do we teach them in more of a gamified environment of how to build things and think about things. And so I think I love seeing when we're like using the technology for that to actually like either create the safe space to kind of unwind, or actually learn and build and kind of give them skills that, again, blurring the digital and physical, right? If you feel great about what's happening and how you're expressing yourself in a virtual world, you take that with you to the physical world. And we actually see that all the time. We know that Gen Z, 56% of them care more about styling their virtual selves than their physical selves, right? And then as we follow that research, we also see, 88% of them then are more confident in the real world. And so if you think about like spaces like Pat and the E.L.F team have created, on Roblox, you can come as you are, right? Maybe you feel like you're a unicorn with wings today, or you're a flying cat taco, or maybe you want to have red curly hair and you were born with blonde hair. Like, you have the keys to how you want to express yourself. And then that inherently builds the confidence that allows you to be open to, like, and what does this look like if I'm an entrepreneur? And how do I take that from having this really fun experience on Roblox to then watching where these, users will take the future is really exciting.
I love that.
No, just when I interviewed with Corey 5 years, she's our CMO, by the way, just Corey, and she, I remember sitting there 5 hours, 5 bottles of wine later. I stumbled out of a bar, but that's another story for another day. But anyway, so she said to me, we have a big responsibility. We have 18 million people that show up at our doorstep every day. We stand for every eye, lip, and face, and we take that very seriously. We know that we're not always perfect. We do stand up for we stood up for women reproductive rights, and we had some backlash around that. But at the end of the day, we know that we are here to make sure that every eye, lip, and face is represented in some way. And your example of what we're doing on Roblox is a perfect one. We know that there's an opportunity to really educate young girls around financial literacy, which is really the precipice behind what we did on building this gamified approach. And part of it is to be strong entrepreneurs. We've had about 19.2 million people that have played our game, which is incredible in a year. We have a 96% approval rating, which is one of the top approval ratings on the platform. So we know it's working. We know that people are showing up and they're getting something out of it. We have a lot to learn. We just spent a couple of great days together, really diving deep into understanding how we can improve and make it better for the players, and to build that community to be strong, really powerful women. Another example that I'm really proud of is 4 years ago, we didn't know what we were going to do in the immersive or gaming space, and we found out that 77% of young girls were being bullied on the platform. And we created a channel called E.L.F. It's basically an FU to men that are abusing girls on the platform. So we have Anna Bynum. She's our global gamer in chief, is what we call her, and she's a makeup artist, and she's a remarkable human being. She goes on, and we bring in a lot of creators to come on and play with her. One of which is Lufu. She's based out of Australia. She's the #2 women gamer in this space. And again, it's giving a platform and giving a voice to people that are underrepresented, not heard, and bringing the allies in, of which I am. And I'm just really proud and grateful that every day I get to wake up and do something around purpose, led with purpose.
Amazing. You guys are definitely just all have such amazing stories, and I think a lot that people can learn. Brand marketers, you guys, I feel like are, some of the brands that are really just sort of fighting for consumers in a way that, that means a lot. And, ultimately you have the following and the connections because of that. I know we are running out of time, so I wanted to open up the floor for any questions that people may have for this group.
It seems like all of your efforts, are obviously incredibly purpose-driven, but they're rooted in, a really great sense of authenticity. And I'm wondering if you can share with us where that authenticity comes from. And I don't love that word authenticity, but I'm going to use it because I'm curious to know if it's in the people that you hire. Is there sort of a secret sauce? Like, where does this authentic, sense of energy come from when you're approaching these projects and campaigns? Because they really seem to resonate well and seem to achieve what they're set to achieve.
I'll go first. I would say that it starts from the communities. It starts with listening to those communities that we're trying to serve. And then I think within the organization, we have what I'll call brand protectors, right? Like, we're always asking ourselves a tough question: is this really standing up for the brand? And because of that, we move a little slower sometimes, and especially when it comes to brand messaging. But I think we often challenge ourselves. We're like, are we talking to ourselves? Are we full of ourselves? Are we self-congratulatory? Are we actually standing up for the real reason that we're talking about this? Are we raising the money in the right way? And so I think there's a lot of legacy people there. There's a lot of people who've been there 20 plus years, and that's very rare for a retail brand, I know. And the founders are still really involved from a board level, but a lot of those big moves still, go through them. And so I think that kind of helps maintain the culture. But I do think when people come into the brand, they're also kind of going through that filter of like where their mind really is on, the causes that we support.
Just a quick add. I mean, I obviously work across a ton of different brands, and I think I loved how you asked the question because I would have answered like D, all of the above, right? So like you have to have the vision at the top and the core values, but every person that works with you, for you, and around you has to share that culture, right? Like the culture and the authenticity has to start at the home base, and then that extends and like trickles down. And so I don't know if any of you went to the Sphere yesterday for Delta, but I felt like that was such a powerful example of every employee that was there, every partner that was there, everybody surrounded in those cultural values of people first. E.L.F. does this really well too. I'll let you share that in a second, but that's when the magic happens, right? It can't be CEO manifesto, this is what we stand for, or like one-off activation. It has to be like everybody that's working with and on shares that.
Yeah. Again, it's yes, yes, and as we continue to really look at what we do as a culture, our CEO really is proud of the fact that we have what we call an HPT, high performance team culture. We don't do annual reviews. It's immediate feedback in the moment. In those moments, giving feedback is hard, and we take it very seriously. And everyone has the opportunity to give feedback to even Tarang, our CEO, to our CMO. And when you have to do it with a peer or whatever, that really does change the dynamic, and it starts for us there. The community, of course, it's everything. It means everything. I said it at the beginning, and of course, it starts at the top with our exec team, and they really live and breathe it. And I'm again super proud that we get to do really cool shit.
Amazing. Thank you guys. This has been awesome. Oh, sorry, one more. Mark.
No, first of all, I want to thank all of our panelists. What an incredible session. Amazing. I love how you all are leading with purpose and taking risks. I mean, right? But clearly the KPIs are there and your management teams are behind you. So, slow processing, but kind of amazing. I want to ask Patrick specifically, the Indy 500 example, clearly you've identified sports marketing as a channel, right? And women's sports. Any thoughts this year around? I mean, last year the woman really stole the show, right? At Final Four, and then WNBA. I mean, this is like a wave. I mean, so much money now flowing into women's sports. TV contracts now. A lot of the NBA partners are now embracing WNBA. You're going to get more involved with sports? Anything you want to share with us?
Yeah, one of the areas that I'm developing right now is really what we're calling our entertainment arm. We're calling it, I'm hiring someone that's a VP of E.L.F. Made, actually. And the idea around that is it will have many different tentacles, if you will, and it's the immersive space. There will be an area for sports, for music. I have artistry under me, so it's all the makeup artists, and we don't know yet what we don't know. So this is gonna be a very elastic space that we build together as a team. But what women in sports specifically is gonna be a big part of that channel, if you will. I go back, 2 or 3. We've been doing this for years. I mean, we partnered with Catherine Legg 2 years ago. One of the really proud moments for me is when we found Billie Jean King, and that was crazy. A friend of mine was he's trying to sell me a drone show, and I'm like, dude, please don't sell me a drone show. Anyway, from that, he's like, they're doing drone shows. This is 2.5 years ago. He's like, they're doing drone shows in Australia and for the Australian Open. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. And he's like, yeah, the U.S. Open, Billie Jean King is going to be celebrating 50 years of equal pay and Battle of the Sexes. And I'm like, okay, I want that. Literally the next day, got on the phone, got her manager, and then the rest is history. We are now supporting the Billie Jean King Cup. If you don't know what that is, it's part of the Davis Cup. For men, this is her version of it. She's the only woman that has a cup named after her in the space of tennis. And I got the chance to go this year in Malaga, Spain, and it was really an incredible, incredible event. It was another way for us to lean into women that are changing the conversation, and we will continue to do that as a brand. But we're very proud to have Billie as part of our family.
Amazing. Wow. Okay, so that's a partnership with the WTA then. on it. Okay.
There'll be more. There'll be more.
Love it. Love it. I want to anecdotally add regarding the Women in the Boardroom, that campaign. So every morning I wake up, I got my go-to Wall Street Journal, CNN, Washington Post. And when I saw those ads on my phone, it was like so out of place, but in a brilliant way. Like I didn't expect to see that ad.
Yeah,
and it was so
that was the
daring
point.
and genius, right? And then for like 2 or 3 days, it was popping up on business media. Like, who would think business media, right? So, congrats on that. It's really genius and groundbreaking.
Yeah. Takes a village for sure.
All right, thank you very much.
All right.
A round of applause for our panelists.